don't have a motivation problem. You don't have a discipline problem. You have a thinking problem. Your mind is chaos, reactive, cluttered, jumping from thought to thought like a drunk stumbling through traffic. And you wonder why your life feels out of control. It's because your head is out of control. I am Thomas Shelby, and today I'll teach you something they never taught you in school: how to actually think. Not memorize, not react. Think. Learn this and you'll see moves before they happen. You'll solve problems that paralyze others. You'll walk through chaos with clarity while everyone around you panics. Listen carefully. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. It's time you decided which one it will be. You spent years in classrooms. They taught you history, mathematics, literature, science. They filled your head with facts and dates and formulas. But they never taught you how to think. They taught you what to think, which answers to give, which boxes to check, which opinions to hold. But the actual process of thinking, the skill of reasoning clearly, analyzing deeply, deciding wisely, they left that out. And now you're walking through life with an untrained mind. A mind that reacts instead of plans. A mind that panics instead of calculates. A mind that's been shaped by everyone except you. That's why you keep making the same mistakes. That's why you feel overwhelmed when problems stack up. That's why you freeze when decisions need to be made. Your mind was never trained for war, and life is war. I learned to think in the trenches of France, when a wrong decision meant death. When hesitation killed faster than bullets. When the only men who survived were the ones who could process chaos and find clarity in seconds. That's where thinking became survival. And that's where I learned that an untrained mind is a liability, a weapon pointed at your own head. You need to fix that, and you need to fix it now. There are two types of minds in this world. The reactive mind and the strategic mind. The reactive mind waits for things to happen, then scrambles to respond. It lives in constant crisis mode. Something goes wrong, it panics. Someone says something offensive, it explodes. A problem appears, it flails. This mind is always behind, always catching up, always exhausted. The strategic mind is different. It doesn't wait for events. It anticipates them. It sees the problem before it arrives. It plans the response before it's needed. It moves through life 3 steps ahead, while reactive minds are still processing step 1. Which mind do you have? Be honest. When something goes wrong in your life, what happens? Do you pause, analyze, plan, or do you feel the emotion first and let it drive your actions? When someone insults you, do you respond from strategy or from wounded pride? When a crisis hits, do you think clearly or do you spiral? The answer reveals everything. Animals react. Instinct drives them. A loud noise, they run. A threat appears, they fight or flee. No thought, no calculation, pure impulse. A strategic man is different. He feels the instinct, the fear, the anger, the urge to react. But he doesn't obey it. He pauses, he processes, he asks, what's actually happening here? What do I want the outcome to be? What move serves that outcome? That pause is everything. That pause is the difference between a man who controls his life and a man who's controlled by it. In chess, beginners think one move at a time. They see the board as it is and make a decision based on the present. They lose. Masters think differently. They see the move they're about to make, the response it will trigger, and the move after that. They think in sequences, not snapshots. Life works the same way. Before I make any decision, any move, I ask 3 questions. What happens if I do this? What will they do in response? What will I do after that? This is how you stop being surprised. This is how you stop walking into traps. This is how you stay ahead of people who think they're clever. When a man comes to me with a deal, I don't just evaluate the deal. I think about what he gains if I accept. I think about what he'll do once he has what he wants. I think about where that leaves me in 6 months. When I say something in a negotiation, I've already anticipated the 3 most likely responses and prepared my counter for each one. When I make an enemy, I've already mapped out how he'll try to hurt me and built defenses before he even plans his attack. This isn't paranoia, this is strategy. You're losing in life because you're playing one move at a time. You make a decision, something unexpected happens, and you're scrambling again. Start thinking in sequences. Before you speak, ask, what will this trigger? Before you act, ask, what doors does this open? What doors does this close? Before you commit to anything, ask, where does this lead in 3 moves? Train yourself to think ahead, and you'll stop being ambushed by consequences you should have seen coming. In a world full of noise, clarity is power. The man who sees clearly while others squint through fog, that man wins. Not because he's stronger, not because he's faster, because he understands what's actually happening while everyone else is guessing. I've sat in rooms where tensions were high, where voices were raised, where chaos was swirling, and while others were shouting, I was watching, listening, cutting through the emotion to find the fact. What does this person actually want? What are they afraid of? What's the real problem underneath the noise? When you can answer those questions, you own the room, because you understand what's happening better than the people living it. Clarity comes from distance. When you're inside the storm, you can't see its shape. You're just getting wet. But when you step back, when you create space between you and the chaos, suddenly the pattern reveals itself. That's why I don't make decisions when I'm angry, or excited, or afraid. Those emotions are fog. They cloud the lens. They make small things look big, and big things look small. I wait until the fog clears. I wait until I can see the board clearly. And then, only then, do I move. This takes discipline, because emotions want you to act now. They scream for immediate response, but immediate response is almost always the wrong response. So train yourself to pause, to breathe, to ask, am I seeing this clearly, or am I seeing it through emotion? The man who masters this becomes dangerous, because he's never tricked by his own feelings. He never walks into traps his emotions set for him. He sees, and seeing clearly is half the victory. Your emotions are liars. Not always, but often enough that you should never trust them completely. Fear tells you to run from things that won't hurt you. Anger tells you to destroy things you'll need later. Excitement tells you to grab things that will poison you. Anxiety tells you everything is dangerous when almost nothing is. These are survival mechanisms, useful when humans lived in caves and every shadow could be a predator. But in the modern world, they misfire constantly. I've watched men ruin their lives because they couldn't separate what they felt from what was true. They felt disrespected, so they started a war they couldn't win. They felt afraid, so they ran from an opportunity that would have changed everything. They felt certain, so they bet everything on a hand they should have folded. Emotion masquerading as truth. That's the trap. Here's what I do. When I feel something strongly, especially when I feel the urge to act on it, I stop. I isolate the emotion. I name it. This is anger. This is fear. This is excitement. Just naming it creates distance. Suddenly it's not me. It's something I'm experiencing, something I can observe rather than obey. Then I ask, is this emotion giving me accurate information about reality, or is it distorting what I see? 9 times out of 10, it's distorting. The deal that felt dangerous was actually just unfamiliar. The person who felt like an enemy was actually just nervous. The opportunity that felt perfect had obvious flaws I couldn't see through the excitement. Don't trust your emotions to think for you. Feel them, yes, but then put them aside and let your mind do its job. That's how you escape the trap. That's how you think clearly when others are drowning in their feelings. Thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. You don't get strong by lifting weights once. You don't get smart by thinking deeply once. You have to train. Here's how I do it. Every day, I give myself time with no input, no phone, no voices, no distractions, just silence and my own mind. In that silence, I review what happened today. What decisions did I make? Were they good? What would I do differently? I don't judge myself. I analyze, like a general reviewing a battle, not to feel bad about losses, but to learn from them. Then I project. What's coming tomorrow, next week, next month? What decisions will I need to make? What information do I need to make them well? This is preparation. When the moment arrives, I've already thought about it. I've already considered the angles. The decision doesn't catch me off guard. You can do this too. Start with 10 minutes, every morning or every evening. It doesn't matter when, as long as it happens. Sit in silence. No phone, no noise, just you and your thoughts. At first it will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will race. It will look for distraction. It will resist the stillness. That's because you've never trained it to be still. You've let it run wild for years. It doesn't know how to focus. Keep going. The resistance fades. And when it does, something opens up. You start hearing your own thoughts clearly. You start seeing patterns you missed. You start thinking instead of just reacting. That's the practice. That's how an untrained mind becomes a weapon. Let me teach you something that will change how you see decisions. First order thinking asks, what happens if I do this? Second order thinking asks, and then what? The difference is everything. First order thinking is shallow. It sees the immediate result and stops there. It looks at a decision, sees an obvious benefit, and says yes. Second order thinking goes deeper. It sees the immediate result, then asks what that result causes, then asks what that causes. Example, a man is offered easy money. First order thinking says, I'll have more money. Good. Second order thinking asks, where does this money come from? What will be expected of me in return? What happens if this source dries up? What happens if someone finds out? What kind of man does this make me over time? Suddenly, the easy money doesn't look so simple. I've made every major decision in my life this way, not just asking what I'll gain today, but asking what chain of events I'm setting in motion. Because every decision is a domino. It doesn't just fall, it knocks something else over, and that thing knocks something else. And before you know it, you're living with consequences you never considered. Train yourself to think in chains. When someone offers you something, don't just ask what you're getting, ask what you're starting. When you're about to act, don't just picture the immediate result. Picture where you'll be in a year if you follow this path. The man who thinks in chains sees further than the man who thinks in moments, and the man who sees further wins. Your mind produces thoughts based on what you feed it. Garbage in, garbage out, that's the law. If you fill your head with noise, social media drama, pointless arguments, outrage, gossip, your thinking will be noisy, cluttered, shallow. If you fill your head with substance, serious books, real problems, thoughtful conversations, your thinking will sharpen, deepen, clarify. What are you feeding your mind right now? Look at your inputs honestly. How much of what you consume is designed to help you think, and how much is designed to keep you distracted? Most content exists to capture attention, not to improve minds. It's designed to trigger reactions, anger, lust, envy, outrage, because reactions keep you scrolling, reactions keep you hooked. But reactions are not thinking. They're the opposite of thinking. They're what happens when thinking stops. So guard your inputs like you'd guard your food. You wouldn't eat poison and expect to be healthy. Don't consume mental poison and expect to think clearly. Choose books over feeds. Choose deep conversations over group chats. Choose silence over noise. Protect what enters your mind, because what enters your mind shapes what exits it. In the middle of chaos, the still mind wins. Not the fastest, not the loudest, the stillest. Because stillness is clarity, and clarity is power. I've been in situations where death was certain if I panicked, where one wrong word meant war, where the pressure would have crushed anyone whose mind wasn't trained to stay calm. And in those moments, I didn't think faster, I thought slower. I let the chaos swirl around me while I stayed still inside. I watched, I breathed, I let the picture form before I moved. That stillness saved my life more than any weapon ever did. You can develop this. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build. Through the practice I described, through the habit of pausing before reacting, through the discipline of separating emotion from analysis. When your mind learns to stay still while the world storms around it, you become untouchable, not because nothing can hurt you, but because nothing can rush you into a mistake. The still mind sees what the panicked mind misses. The still mind finds solutions while others are still defining problems. That's the goal, not a fast mind, a still one. Train for that, and you'll never be outthought again. Now you understand. Your mind has been untrained, reactive, at the mercy of every emotion and distraction that comes along. And that's why life has felt so out of control. But that ends now. From today, you train. You practice stillness. You think in sequences, not snapshots. You separate what you feel from what is true. You guard your inputs. You ask, and then what, before every decision. Do this, and your mind transforms from liability to weapon, from chaos to clarity, from servant to master. If someone you know is stuck, overwhelmed, reactive, unable to think their way out of their situation, send them this. Share it with a friend who needs to hear it. Because the man who learns to think clearly sees the game before others even know they're playing. He moves through life with a calm that terrifies those who can't understand it. And that man is no longer at the mercy of the world. He bends the world to his will. You're starting to see clearly now. That's how legends are made.